Could wait a couple more minutes.
I'm recording now.
You are recording now.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, well then, welcome to this evening's reports and presentations to the Public Works Committee. We have two items to consider. Our first item is, consider September 23rd, 2023 Transportation and Parking Request Program submission regarding installation of accessible pedestrian signals at the intersection of North Oakland Avenue and East Capitol Avenue. Tonight we have Director Bushlick here to just kind of give us a little bit of a synopsis on this request. Director Bushlick, would you like to fill us in?
Sure. As noted in your packet, we did receive a request through this program for the installation of accessible pedestrian signals at the Oakland and Capitol intersection. In a nutshell, these signals provide both tactile and audible information to residents or users of the intersection who have limited vision or any type of vision impairment. I believe the cost was noted in the memo, and looking at approximately $12,000. Staff would be recommending that you use remaining ARPA funds to fund this project, if so approved.
Oh, great, thank you. Trustee Lynn, do you have any questions, comments?
No questions. Really, I think a couple things. Just making sure with all this ARPA money, I know a couple weeks ago we approved like up to $50K for a study to come out of ARPA funds. We're not close to tapping that just yet, are we, Leanne? If you can recall, I know George talked about it a month ago, and I should have looked it up ahead of time, but
no, you're not close yet.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then I'm okay with it. Does anybody know why we hadn't done this in the past? Was it just one of those things that we kind of just...
So we actually, a number of years ago, did have audible PED signals, a very early version of them, and they were at not every intersection on Capitol, but a number of the intersections on Capitol. Over the course of the years, and when I say earlier, I mean as many as 15 or more years ago, over the course of time, those signals have reached the end of their lifespan. Many of them no longer function. We will be looking, I believe this was noted in the memo, the Lake and Capitol intersection will have an APS, or ACS, excuse me, with the Lake Drive project in 2025. We've also spec'd these installations for the Oakland Avenue reconstruction in 2026. And Public Works will be looking at future budget requests for the installation at remaining key intersections along Capitol Drive and South Oakland Avenue.
Great, thank you for filling in that history there too. So yeah, I'm all in favor. So.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, if you're in favor, I'm definitely in favor, and I'd like to just move. I'd like to make a motion that I move the Public Works Committee recommend. I move that the Public Works Committee recommend to the Village Board that accessible pedestrian signals be installed at the intersection of North Oakland Avenue and East Capitol Drive with utilization of ARPA funds, ARPA funds.
Second.
It looks like we're both in favor, so I would say that. Constitute as a motion. Carried.
Great.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Trustee Lynn. Next,
Trustee Ursink.
Yes.
I apologize for the interruption. Okay. The actual requester of that item just logged on as you were approving it, so I don't know if maybe you want to give her a very brief summary.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a hard time reading the agenda to find where the link is. So I apologize.
So if you're on the agenda too, a cool thing about our agenda is you can just click on, I don't know if you know this, but with our agendas, if you find it online, you could just click on the actual agenda item and it'll take you right to the page in the book, in the whole agenda. But you're here now, so
thank you.
Just to fill you in, we just Trustee Lynn and myself just approved this as as a measure. So we'll be taking $12,000 out of our, or $1,200 out of our ARPA funds and installing this at the intersection that was noted, which was Oakland and
Capital.
Oakland and Capitol.
Actually, this will be going to the village board for approval
Sorry.
on the 20th of November. After that approval, then we'll look at installation.
Oh, great. That's wonderful news. I really appreciate it. And so then is the November 20th meeting also online?
No, that one will be back in person.
Oh, good. And that'll be in the village hall, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Oh, good.
And I would anticipate this being a pretty fast approval. So I don't see any hiccups with this.
Oh, good. Yeah, because as I mentioned before, there are at least 5 village residents who are legally blind or completely blind. So it would benefit not just me, but all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you so much. I really appreciate your help.
Yep. Well, we'll see you. Maybe we'll see you on the 20th.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So the next item on our agenda is consider October 21st, 2023 transportation and parking request program submission regarding East Edgewood Avenue traffic calming and signage. Leanne, would you like to share this one?
I can do that, sure. Apologize. So this submission was made by our village resident, Jeff Morris. As I noted in your memo, I have summarized the prominent points of the request, and those basically fall into 3 major categories. The first was a request to prominently or more prominently post 25 mile per hour speed limit in the areas along Edgewood Avenue. The second kind of what I would call grouping relates to traffic calming items, and there was a noted request for a speed bump or a speed table at some specific locations between Lake and Downer. And then the third area referenced a request for additional outreach or the production of additional materials for residents or motorists or the traveling public for use of the advisory lane markings on Edgewood. Mr. Morris, I believe I saw, is online with us this evening. So as per policy, this item was forwarded to Public Works, the Police Department, and Planning and Development for review and comment. There were no, I would say, salient comments from any of the staff. I would note, I did include some accident reports for this year on Edgewood Avenue, and that's included under the Police Department report. The Planning and Development Director noted, as you know, that previous items or requests related to speed bumps or speed tables have been denied based essentially on the fact that the village does not have a policy for their use or implementation. I would say one additional thing that we have been looking at that's not included in the memo, and this would follow on my note that was in the memo related to Milwaukee's comments regarding the request. They noted that the pavement has a 3-year warranty and would not consider any type of alteration to the pavement within that warranty time period. So that really does limit what the village is able to do even north of the center line. A speed table would require the use of the entire roadway. A speed bump would not necessarily, if the village board choose to alter its course on the use of speed bumps. But this roadway would present a particular challenge in that there isn't actually a single traffic lane on the village's side of the roadway. As you know, with the advisory bike lane markings, the vehicle travel lane is essentially the center of the roadway. So it would be a real challenge. I'm not sure if it's possible for the village to put a speed bump or a speed hump, even if it were temporary, only on the village's side of the roadway. So, like I said, I don't know that it's impossible, but it would be difficult. I did also include a summary of the work that has been done to date by the Parks and Public Spaces Committee. You'll recall that they were charged with the creation of an educational campaign when the advisory bike lane was approved. And I believe that Sandy Pendleton, who is a representative of that committee, is also on the line this evening.
You're muted. Trustee Erzing, you're on mute.
All that good stuff I said, Leanne, about you, and I was on mute that whole time. I just wanted to thank you so much for that, the breakdown of this particular item. Before us, we have, several bullet points to kind of discuss. It sounds like a speed bump or speed table is sort of not in the conversation right now because of Milwaukee's involvement, and it'd be a challenge to just produce speed bumps on one side of the road. Plus, we don't have a policy for that currently. Based on basically, would you like to go through each one of these topics together? Should we hear from Sandy Pendleton? I kind of implore my fellow trustees to kind of figure out how we go about this.
Yeah, I would love to hear from Sandy. Sandy, if you have some information about kind of what you guys had discussed about the educational plan, and then I have some other thoughts, and I'm happy to take some other comments, but I'd like to start there just to kind of hear a little bit more about the educational plan side of it.
Great. We can go there, and just so the public knows, I see a hand up. We'll listen to Sandy's presentation or his comments. Then we'll do a round with the trustees and hear their thoughts, and then we will go to the public. So, Mr. Pendleton, thank you for joining us this evening. I would love to hear sort of your perspective on any sort of educational materials that you have been working on. Or your
Thank
group.
you. Thank you, trustee, and thank you all for your service to the village. I don't need to make my comments very long. Chris Anderson did a fine job in providing a rough summary of what's happened with the educational campaign so far. Of course, the Parks and Public Spaces Committee doesn't have staff or resources to really execute a campaign, but we have done what we can. And I summarized that in an email that was circulated earlier today after I was asked to provide some comments on what's been done so far with that. So with that, if there are any questions that any of the trustees have, I'd be happy to respond. Otherwise, I think the written elaboration on the very nice summary that Chris put together, it speaks for itself.
Trustee Lynn, Trustee Baldoff, do you have any additional comments or questions for Mr. Pendleton?
No, I appreciate all the work you guys put into researching this and helping to spread the word about everything. As I've mentioned before, I think this is a good idea. And I think it's going to be very similar to all the other streets in the village. And I'm just looking forward to seeing it be completed.
Fantastic. Trustee Baldoff?
Agree. I would echo that. I really appreciate the way that, excuse me, our community comes together in general. And I think especially we see that really in a prominent way when it comes to, keeping folks safe as they're moving around the village. So I appreciate the work that's gone into this, and, look forward to continuing to have this kind of partnership with our amazing volunteers and with our community helping to lead the charge on these things in the future.
Thank you. We do have, I guess I kind of deviate this a little bit, but Jeff Morris, who is the writer of this application, is here this evening. And if he is available to join the conversation, would love to hear from Mr. Morris and, based on the things that he's heard from Leanne and Mr. Pendleton, as well as if he's had a chance to go through this packet and if some of these items are satisfy some of these requests. Mr. Morris, are you available to jump on?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Well, as for the first matter, the request for additional signage, there's no signage. I mean, the first time you see that the speed limit on Edgewood is supposed to be 25 miles an hour, if you turn off the Lake Drive, you have to almost speed to Maryland before you see the first speed limit. So, and as I said, people will poo-poo me, but I think there's some neighbors on the line who will attest to the same thing that I've been saying for probably the last 30 years. People do not honor the speed limit. Number one, they don't even know what the speed limit is. They speed regularly. I scream at them. And from my understanding, I just was talking to Fred D'Amato, who lives down the street. He told me a number of years ago he made a request. Apparently, it probably wasn't processed the way it has to be. And so we still don't have even a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit until you get almost to Maryland. So I would hope that at a minimum, we could put some speed limit signs in so that when people come tooling off of Lake Drive, they have an understanding that they're not expected to go 40 and 45 miles an hour, which they do regularly. The second part of my request, which was speed tables and speed bumps, it was prompted by the fact that a large selling point insofar as these ABLs was that they lead to traffic calming. I read the reports, and as I said at the last meeting, I think that misrepresents the best of the reports. The best of the reports, the one the most site studied, where there was the most experience, was in Europe. And that report said, we can't say that ABLs alone lead to traffic calming, because where there is traffic calming, that's because at the same time that they install ABLs, they also install speed bumps and speed tables and other traffic calming. And so I made a request. I actually made a request about 5 months ago when this was first going through. And apparently the president thought that that was just, I don't know what she thought. But when I followed up about 2 weeks ago, I was told, oh, you have to make a formal request. So I made a formal request, which is a little bit disconcerting because now I hear, because the project's already been installed, it's too late to even think about any of these things. They probably could have been thought about if somebody had had the courtesy to tell me, you have to make a formal request rather than just sit on it, which is what she did. So it's very disappointing. Quite frankly, it seems to me nobody really cares an awful lot about this segment of the corridor.
I'm going to stop you right there, Jeff. Mr. Morris, we all care. We all care greatly. We've met about this several times. We've discussed every angle and every aspect of this. We've listened to a lot of residents that agree, that disagree. We've listened to our community groups. We've listened to everybody involved, from Milwaukee to Shorewood and in between. So I hear your concerns. Believe me, I do. But to say that we don't care is that would be misrepresentation, because we all care very deeply about this.
Well, then why wasn't my request brought to this committee 4 months ago when I first forwarded it?
Well, Mr. Morris, you can just determine that with whatever way you want to. Just to be super clear, we all received your emails and everything that was inside of them. And we do have processes here, obviously, for reasons. You can imagine we get a lot of requests about a lot of different things going in a lot of different directions. I'm sure that in your normal life, you're used to being able to send an email and just receive a response. But this is the government. We have so many things to do. So many people who
nice for somebody
work
from the
for.
government.
You're not the only one.
This isn't enough.
And then just to be clear as well, Mr. Morris, about speed tables, that's something that I've been involved with and advocating for in the village for several years in pretty much every capacity that I've been involved in. They're extremely difficult to implement. They're very expensive. They're not always realistic.
but it is something that is discussed very regularly and has been for several years. So I just want to reassure you that these things matter. We all care about the exact same things that you care about, and we are doing our best to make it all happen. Okay.
And, you know, I would say that without us discussing it, we're probably all on board with more signage, speed limit signage. And with my brief conversation with Director Bushlick, that is an easy sort of fix that we can all agree that should be happening. So I would say that is, you know, if there's one thing on here that we can guarantee is going to happen, I guarantee there's going to be there can be more signage on Edgewood at the locations that were specified.
Thank you.
And then moving on to the other request about educational materials, item, you know, when you made this, I'm not sure you were aware that we have a Public Parks and Open Spaces Committee and a subcommittee that was going to create, that we've tasked as a board with creating educational documents and educational experience. I think that, you know, it's a pretty open sort of open concept for what they can create. Were you satisfied with that particular item and what's currently happening?
I didn't see. I apologize. I don't know. Was there something in there? Was this email that Sandy referenced? I haven't seen it. I'd be happy to take a look at it, but I haven't seen it. I mean, I will tell you this, and I don't know whether that's the village or whether that's the city of Milwaukee, but there are these signs that are posted at various corners here, and I will tell you that people walking by them, and I'm not prompting anybody, but people look at them and say, what? And then their next comment is, and somebody's supposed to like see that driving by and understand what that's telling them to do. So I don't know whether those are yours or whether those are the city of Milwaukee, but I wouldn't count on those.
And from my understanding, I think the actual committee is going to, you know, be creating more of a robust sort of experience online, something that can be, you know, sent out in various publications. I don't think that's the extent. I at least hope that is not the extent. I know that's not the extent of the educational part of this roadway. Director Bushlick, I just want to make sure that the director has a chance to respond to some of that. Leanne?
Sorry, I was just going to mention that I can certainly forward Mr. Pendleton's email along to Mr. Morris tomorrow. And I will also begin working with staff to evaluate placement for speed limit signs, particularly along the east end of the roadway. And we will get those up as soon as we can. It'll be somewhat dependent on what we have in stock. And then we will also have to hotline for the signpost installation and allow that to clear. So I'm hopeful we could get some up before the end of the week.
Thank you. That would be appreciated. I don't know. I mean, these are advisory bike lanes. I will tell you, I mean, we've had these advisory bike lanes now for 3 days. Today I saw a fellow jogging with a baby jogger in one. I saw 2 kids with those motorized scooters. I don't know if that's the intended use. It just sort of suggests it's doing what I sort of expected it to do. I think it's creating a more dangerous situation. Is it really a good idea to have kids on motorized scooters riding out in the street? Is it really a good idea to have folks with a baby jogger jogging down the middle of the street? But that's what's happening. And I will tell you, I mean, it's too early to tell, you know, whether, and it probably will only be anecdotal, but nobody's slowing down. The same cars that speed by today and the last 3 days.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. I know Trustee Baldoff has her hand raised, would love to hear her comments. You're muted.
She's muted.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to say, I really do appreciate the efforts that we're all making to, expand signage, expand education. But ultimately, this is a bigger and broader issue of the way people are driving in our communities. And, if anyone saw in the news today, the Milwaukee police chief leaving a press conference about reckless driving was in a car accident, was struck by a reckless vehicle. So we have this issue where, yes, we need to do more of the education, and yes, that is so important. And also, the overwhelming majority of people who are driving on a residential side street know that they're not supposed to be going 40, 50, 60 miles an hour down that street. They're doing it anyway, whether there's a sign there or not. And, you know, I think that that's why we're also focused on, yes, we're going to do everything we can at our micro level, but we have been engaged in planning processes and, working to get additional public safety funding from the federal government in partnership with the county. So, we just, took part in a process to work on a Safe Streets and Roads for All program in collaboration with Milwaukee County, Greendale, South Milwaukee, Wauwatosa, West Dallas. So we're going to be able to leverage resources, kind of at some higher. This is a much bigger problem than is just in Shorewood, and I just want to make sure that our community is that, yes, there are things we can do here, and we will do those things. We're not going to take a pass on what's possible, but this is a much bigger issue than a Shorewood issue, and we're very focused on partnering at every level of government to help address some of these issues, and do what we can to keep our community as safe as we can.
Well said, Trustee Baldoff. Thank you. We have a couple hands raised in the audience here. I'd like to go in order of what I've seen here. And Mark, would you like to join by just kind of stating your name and your address? Did we lose Mark altogether? That's too bad. We'll go with the next hand I see is James Potter. Mr. Potter, if you could just state your name and your address when you come on, and
you bet. Thank you. And thank you everyone for your time and effort. I know this is a lot of extra time. My address is 3493 North Shepherd, and technically I'm Milwaukee, so I'm across the street. But I think the last trustee who spoke, I think she made a good excuse on why there needs to be additional speed measures taken. It is a problem, and I feel like we took the natural speed barriers of all the potholes out, and what we ended up doing was creating a nice runway for people to speed down, and there's nothing to stop them except the stop sign. So I mean, that's just my input. The other thing I will say is people are confused by the pattern. So I'm not sure what we've done has created it any safer for a biker to ride down our streets. That's just what I've seen from the last few days.
Thank you. And I had the pleasure of driving down this afternoon. I know this is fairly new. And, to be honest, when I saw the design at first, I was like everybody else, like, how is this going to work? But after so many meetings and conversations with the community and our various groups and the research from other communities, I think, the one great thing about Shorewood is we're always open to trying new things and being creative to figure out solutions. And this was a sort of a different approach. And we knew that it wasn't going to be embraced by everybody, but looking at the different sort of studies done, we figured it'd be worthwhile giving it a try. I went down tonight, probably around, a little bit before rush hour, and I felt it was a much easier street to navigate than I originally thought it was going to be. I didn't see sort of any conflicts. There was cars on both sides. People kind of understood how to move to the left or to the right. So I did think that it, I do think over time, basically how the cars have to negotiate each other, it's going to slow people down. And I feel like people are going to start to kind of understand how to navigate that within the first couple of weeks. So, we'll see. Nothing's forever here. If things don't work, we're open to change as well. So that's the beautiful thing about this board and this community is we understand our mistakes and we'll move forward if we see that this was not the right idea. Okay, so I think Mark has joined back up. Mark, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thanks. First of all, thank you, all of you, for your service to the community. And I don't think anyone questions that you care about our community. And this is what makes Shorewood the special place that it is. I joined this meeting this evening because I'm a resident on Edgewood Avenue, and I've raised 2 kids here. I'm raising two children here. Jeff Morris has raised a couple of kids here. I'm sure all of you are raising children here or have raised children here, and it's really this traffic safety issue it's really about them. And it's just so important that we basically have proper signage for speed limits, minimally. And I'm glad to hear that you're hoping to have those up within the week. I think that if I understood, you mentioned, well, we'll try and get these on the east side of Edgewood Avenue. Speeding traffic also comes from the west from the westerly direction. And I think it's important to have signs, whatever is appropriate, all along Edgewood Avenue so that people know what the speed limit is. I hope that happens. I'd be very disappointed if it didn't happen. I'd be very disappointed in this board if it didn't happen. I don't see that being a budget breaker. So I'm glad to hear that will be, that you'll be pursuing that. With regard to speed, I can understand speed bumps are complicated and expensive. We have two municipalities sharing the same street. We have a new road. They have a 3-year warranty. You don't want to disrupt that, make changes, potentially disrupting that warranty. I understand that, but speed tables, I don't understand what's so complicated about that. I know I've been here on Edgewood Avenue for 12 years, and I've called the police asking them to at least occasionally have a patrol car here. Tracking speeders, nothing. I've asked about speed tables, nothing. Now I understand there has to be a formal process. Is it a formal process to call the police and ask them to monitor Edgewood Avenue and the speeders? I don't know. Maybe it is, but maybe you could tell me if that's the case. But I just feel that, Edgewood Avenue has been disregarded. Perhaps it's because we share it with the city of Milwaukee. Their municipality, their jurisdiction, their processes, I'm sure, is much more cumbersome and much more complicated than ours is in Shorewood. And I feel that possibly we're just pushing it off and saying, well, we can't do it because we have to work with the city of Milwaukee. Well, maybe that's the case. Fill me in. But I just really feel like in my 12 years here, the maintenance of the road, the safety issues, the safety devices to be put in place have all been disregarded. And I just want to make that known, and I want to make that very clear. And wherever the money came from for these improvements on Edgewood Avenue are much appreciated. It was a horrible road to drive on, horrible road to bicycle on. It's been very unsafe. Yes, this helps, but it also, you have people who have habits of speeding and they're just, oh wow, this feels, oh yeah, let's check it out or whatever. They're not the people who speed are not slowing down. If anything, they may feel less impeded to slow down because it's a smooth ride. Thanks for your time, and again, thank you for your service. I know it's I know you have a lot on your plate. I know it's coming at you from all directions, but I'm in this mix now. I'm not going to let up. I'd like to see some changes. And I hope that the neighbors on Edgewood Avenue feel the same way, that we're not going to let up. We want action. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. We all really appreciate that. I speak for my other trustees here that we've been very focused on bike and ped safety. It's been one of I think our biggest conversation topics that I've probably had over the past 4 years. It's something that we're always looking to improve on. It's something that's very important to all of us. So we sympathize with you, and we're here to work with you. There is a system, there's a process, and we're trying to work through that process. There's things that, I would say that with this group, we do a lot of research. We're thinking about this every day and night. You may live on that street, but we're thinking about you, and we're thinking about how to make things better. We're doing the research, we're talking to the experts, and it's something that we're constantly thinking about. And if there's anything I know about us as a group, we're not pushing anything off. And that's obvious by all the construction that's going on in your area, because those are all huge infrastructure improvements that we've implemented. We've decided, that we've really put that foot forward on things that may have been pushed off, but we said that kind of buck stops with us, and we are going to make sure that these fixes happen on our watch. And that's what I get so excited about. So, it's hard for me to hear sometimes when people are upset about construction, because I'm really excited that we're doing all these. It just shows that there's progress happening in this village. We're making improvements to our infrastructure and to our bike, ped, and safety. Is it perfect? Is it everything that everybody wants? It never, ever is, but we've got to compromise. And this has kind of been a really fantastic compromise to this point, and we'll keep on sort of working things through. Mr. Pendleton, I know that you have your hand raised. I'd love to hear your comments.
Yes, just very briefly. I just want to make it clear that I and all of the members of the Parks and Public Spaces Committee, and in particular, the Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Committee, share Jeff's goal, share Jeff's or Mark's goal of reducing speeding on Edgewood and on reducing the risk of vehicle pedestrian collisions on Edgewood, especially if those collisions involve children. I live very close to Edgewood. I'm on Edgewood every day. I want Edgewood to be a safer street. The disagreement or the debate that's been going on the last year and a half in the committee and with the village board is what is the best means to achieve those goals with the limited scope of the project that we have here. This is not a reconstruction project. This is a repaving project. That was emphasized to us who wanted more on the Parks and Public Spaces Committee many, many times over the last year and a half. So is the current project perfect? No, it's not. Do I believe it's better than what we had before? Yes, I do. The pavement is much better, much safer for cyclists. And it's paradoxical. It's not intuitive, but the uncertainty created by the new street design causes people to be more attentive, causes drivers to be more attentive, and causes them to therefore reduce their speed. Because it's strange, but if you, as a driver, feel you're in a slightly unsafe driving street, you're actually on a safer street because you're likely to slow down and you're likely to be less attentive. And the research backs that up. Do I want to see other traffic control elements on that stretch of Edgewood? Do I like to see the UWM's proposal for a community greenway once Edgewood is reconstructed? Absolutely. But I don't want people to jump to conclusions before we give this some time. Give drivers the opportunity to actually experience this, drive this, and get used to it. Same thing with cyclists. And then let's make a decision. Let's not come to snap decisions about advisory bike lanes, confusing, unsafe, and bad, or advisory bike lanes in Shorewood on Edgewood, the greatest thing ever. Let's take our time. Let's consider the feedback. Let's use this thing and then make a decision on whether we want to keep it as it is or whether we want to make a decision and go to the cost of reversing it. That is stripping off the bike lanes and painting a new center line on there. There would be cost if we reverse this. So we need to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Trustee
Yes,
Ursink,
Dr.
if I could
Yep.
just jump in, just
Yes.
as a reminder, tonight's discussion is not about the future of advisory bike lanes. We
Right.
need to keep it focused on the request at hand. But
Yes, thank you.
also, you're scheduled to conclude at 7 p.m. because there is a Community and Business Relations Committee meeting that's scheduled. So just a reminder on a time check.
Well, yep, we're over that time. So thank you, everybody. I know President McCaig, do you have something that would be in the realm of 30 seconds, a comment for 30 seconds? If so, please jump in.
Yeah, first of all, I think JPNL is supposed to go at 7:15, so I think there might be two different meeting links. But I did just send an email to staff and Chief Worth about coordinating some targeted enforcement on Edgewood now that it's been repaved. I recalled that typically when we finish a big repaving like this, you're right, it is smoother and it's in better shape. And so sometimes people do end up going faster for a bit. And so targeted enforcement and speed boxes can be implemented and typically are. So I just sent that email. I just wanted to let you know while you were having that conversation.
I appreciate that,
Thank you.
President McCaig.
If I can make one note on targeted enforcement, I know that Chief Worth has been much better than the prior police chief at wanting to do more targeted enforcement. I know that lately she's been pulled to Capitol due to the incidents and everything that's been happening there. So that most of their targeted enforcement has been Capitol and Oakland at the moment. And there's only so many cops to go around. So hopefully she can fit that into her rotation.
Yeah, I remember when I was on a ride along with a police officer just recently, we went down Edgewood, multiple times in our kind of, as we drove around the community. Edgewood was, and we actually pulled somebody over on Edgewood. So, so that was a part of it. And Mr. Morris, I also sympathize with you because I live on North Morris Boulevard, and we have the same sort of traffic issues. I raised my son as well as a neighborhood full of kids that would hang out in my front yard, and cars would take that green arrow from Culver's, and it seems like they hit 80 miles an hour within a block. So, we always made it a point to scream at cars, and was it the best that I had kids screaming at cars as well? No, but I understand how it goes, and I think that's kind of why we fight for, we fight for better safety in our streets. So I appreciate your comments, and let's continue to work together. Please keep on sending me your emails. It's something I read all the time, and I take to heart, and it's something I consider every time I talk to Leanne or we have these meetings. So thank you for your comments, and thank you for filling out this request form. It's very important that our community does this, and it's much appreciated. Thank you. With that said, I think Director Bushlick, if you're still here, I'm not sure. Okay. Do you need a motion for us for the signs, or is that something that is just going to happen?
I don't need a motion.
Okay.
It's just something we will do.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that is much appreciated. Look forward to that, and look forward to getting an update on those signs, and hopefully we'll see them within the next week or two.
Thank you, Leanne.
Trustee Baldoff, Trustee Lynn, do you have anything to add or to follow up on the conversation?
No, thank you for working through all this.
My pleasure. Yep, it's to see the progress has been really great. So I'm excited to I was excited to ride on that road today, and it's fun to see these projects kind of come to completion. So
thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yep,
thank you.
Thank you. With that said, that wraps up the Public Works Committee for this evening. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. All in favor of adjournment? Yes, that'd be all three of us.
Aye.
Are we staying on the same link here for our next meeting for JPNL?
Yes. That's right. I'll just stop the recording real quick. Well, I guess I don't need to. Never mind.
We're rolling straight into it, huh?
Let's go for it.
Okay.
All right. Well, we are all here. So with trustees present and accounted for, we will convene this meeting of the Judiciary Personnel and Licensing Committee at 7:17 p.m. And we have one item on the agenda this evening, and that is to consider a member appointment to the library board. Clerk Harrell, is there anything that you want to add to this item, or would you like us to just get into the discussion? How would you like us to proceed here?
Yeah, nothing to add.
Thank you.
All right. So as I would assume many folks are aware, there have been some changes to the library board. And so recently the village board took action to remove 2 members of the board and to make 2 new appointments to the board. Village board trustee Eric Kudo and Wesley Warren, who previously served on the village board. And following that action, there was an additional vacancy that became available, or that became we became aware of on October 27th with the resignation of a board member, which created a vacancy for the board outside of the normal timeline for the terms for members on the board. So given that we have an additional vacancy, we are looking to make another appointment. And we do have 2 applications on file from 2, stellar community members who've been engaged at various points in village business and community building. And so we're here to have a conversation as JPNL. I will note that prior to this meeting being called to order, it was originally our understanding that this committee did not need to convene immediately to discuss an appointment. And because of that, the village advertised in the village manager's memo that we would be seeking additional applicants, with knowing that there's been quite a bit of community interest and conversation about the library, and knowing what an important part of our community the library is. We wanted to make sure that since this vacancy came outside of the typical term timeline that we had, gave folks every opportunity to be a part of it and to be considered for appointment here. So we did open up that process to receive additional applicants. And after that call went out, did find out that that we were required to meet and have a discussion about appointees. So just wanted to make sure everyone has all that information, that we did put out a call for additional applicants on Friday before this committee meeting was noticed. So with having said that, I can turn it over to the trustees for some additional comments. I will start with stating my preference, which would be to defer action on an appointment until 2 weeks from now, since we did open up that call for additional applicants, to make sure that we've got folks who are interested, since this is outside of the typical timeline, to make sure we've got those folks available to apply if interested. And knowing that, yes, we do also have 2 excellent applicants on file. And I think that we have, an embarrassment of riches at times here in Shorewood with how many wonderful qualified people are willing to raise their hand and serve on our committee. So just wanted to start by stating, what my preference is, but open it up to discussion.
Thank you, Trustee Marboldoff. I'm happy to go first, if that's all right. My preference would also be to defer an appointment until the next meeting. I don't think that there's anything wrong with the committee member or the applicants at the moment, and their applications will absolutely be reconsidered in 2 weeks along with the others. I just think it's important that we do receive all the requests that we can get, given that this was put out that way and how much information is swirling around surrounding this topic. One thing of note as well that I'd like to point out to people who are interested in serving on any boards, the library board is not the only board. It's only one board, and it is equal to the other boards that we have, which are numerous and often in times in desperate need of very high quality people to participate on them. Participating in one of those boards is how I got involved in Shorewood government. It's how many of us have gotten involved. I just, I want anybody who's applying to the library board, knowing that there's only one open seat at the moment, to know that, like, please give us a second and a third choice that you might be interested in serving on as well. There's so much need in the community, and these volunteer citizen-led committees really are the lifeblood of our government. They advise us on so many issues. And so, I just don't want people to think that, this is the only place that needs work. There's many others.
Well said, Trustee Lynn. Hard to follow that up. I think we have some incredible candidates on file here, and I'm so excited because being part of JP&L and a lot of these, different boards, sometimes we don't see these applications come through. We're always, just to echo what you said, we're always trying to encourage. That's half of our job as, I think, public servants and as trustees, is trying to encourage people to run for village government, try to run for boards. And I think when we have two candidates like this that have applied for this one seat, it's very exciting to see that. And I think, we're looking at a situation right now that really needs to turn around. And I think the leadership in both of the candidates that we have on file at the moment would just be such a fantastic option for the library board. So, I am respectful of the fact that we did put out the communication, and we it's our duty to do the due diligence, even though we have such high quality candidates on file right now. I do agree with the both of you that we should see what comes in over the next week or two, discuss everybody, and go from there. But I'm on board with that. But I have to say that I'm very excited with the turnout that we have right now.
I agree, and it's definitely my plan to conduct interviews with the two current applicants we have on file, as well as any other applicants that we receive. So I think that, that's just going to be really important to moving forward in a place where we can have, ensure that we are keeping the library where it needs to be, and ensuring the public and our community that we are taking our duty seriously here. And I thought I saw, and
Paul, did you have your hand up?
Paul, did you have your hand up? Or did I answer your question? Were you going to ask if we were going to do interviews?
I was, but you answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well then, Clerk Carroll.
If I may.
Sure.
Not to foreshadow what I'm going to do, but I'll probably withdraw. And here's why. You guys need to make decisions, and you can always postpone and say, let's get more and let's get more. But I think at the library, you've got a situation where some decisions need to be made. Some leadership needs to step up, and the library needs to get back to being the wonderful community institution that we've all come to know. And I applied, I think 6 weeks ago, and there was an on and off. It doesn't matter, the machinations. But I'm saddened to hear the back and forth decision of the village board and this committee. And I'm very sorry. And I would like to withdraw from consideration at this point.
Mr. Zovig, I'm surprised to hear that from you, but I understand. I think you're a great asset to this community, and I certainly appreciate your insight and on this and other issues. So I thank you for coming here to share your insight, and more to think about. But thank you.
I mean, at some guys, you guys got to say enough's enough. Let's move on.
I understand.
And I'm sorry you haven't gotten to that point yet. And I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Clerk Harrell, what is the action that we will need to take then? Is it just a motion that would be, we recommend to defer consideration of a library board appointee to the November 20th meeting date?
That makes sense, yes.
Okay.
And I will note that.
Okay. So if that works, I'm happy to make the motion, but if somebody else would like to make a motion to that effect, please feel free to jump in.
I'm happy to do that. I do want to make one note of reassurance for the general public that, the situation on the library board itself, and speaking of just the library board here, it's not as dire or as much of an emergency as kind of has been made to seem in other areas of communication. I think it's very important. I think it's important that we take our time and do this properly and diligently. And I think that, given that the library board, they are not running the library. They are not the bosses of those employees. They do not deal with day-to-day operations of the library. They're a volunteer committee that has some oversight authorities, but is a small piece compared to what the actual employees do. They're the ones doing the work. They're coming to work for the most part and doing their job as best as they can. And I'm very appreciative of all of the hard work that the library staff is doing during this time. And I think that from our position, where we're only overseeing the library board, I'm okay taking a more cautious approach. And I don't think 2 weeks is going to totally blow up the operation of the library board specifically.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any subtext here that I'm not picking up on, but I know everything is political, so I'm kind of shocked that Mr. Zovig dropped out. He would have been my choice, and I think he would have been a perfect leader for the position. But I think he made the decision he needed to make, so you got to respect that. Yeah, sorry.
So if we're ready, I'm happy to make a motion. I move to defer appointment of a new library board member to the next JP&L committee on November 20th.
Second.
I'll second.
It has been properly moved by trustee Lynn and seconded by trustee Ursink. All in favor, please state aye.
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 Motion carried 3-0. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
We are adjourned at 7:32 p.m.
Thank you. Are we
Thank
jumping
you.
onto a different link? This is the link. Okay.
All right. How's chickens going in the other room?
I wish I knew.